So I'm really excited about this video because I want to really see the differences between the Osmo Pocket 4 and the Osmo Pocket 4P. Now I did actually a 4 versus a 3, and a lot of people were saying that there wasn't too much of a difference to go from the 3 to the 4, but the 4P has arrived and I really think it's a massive upgrade, but I want you guys to tell me in the comments below if you're going to be upgrading from the 4 or from the 3 to the 4P. Now, right from the start, we can obviously see a massive difference between the two cameras. You know, the Pocket 4 has just that single 20mm lens, whereas the Pocket 4P has a dual lens system with a 20mm and a 60mm lens. So the Pocket 4P has a newer 1-inch sensor that has an f2 at 20mm, and the 3x zoom lens is a 60mm focal length and has an f1.8 aperture. Now, also another key difference from the start, we have to talk about DLOG versus DLOG 2. Now, DLOG was still a really great feature in the Pocket 4 because it's not a compressed DLOG M format. DLOG is still a really decent gamma profile, whereas DLOG 2 is DJI's newest gamma curve, which is incredible and gives us up to 17 stops of dynamic range in the Pocket 4P. But let's put that to the test. Now, it's going to be very difficult to compare these side by side absolutely perfect when it comes to exposure, because when it comes to the Pocket 4, it only has D-Log. The minimum ISO is 400, whereas D-Log 2, the minimum ISO is 100. So the ND filters are going to have to be different. Now, when it comes to the aperture on both of these, they're both f2, but they're also both a 20mm focal length as well. Okay, so we got it on D-Log 2, obviously in the Pocket 4P, and the Pocket 4 is just regular D-Log. Now, this is automatic settings. Want to see how this is handling it. You're obviously hearing the audio directly through the DJI Mic 3, which is attached into the Pocket 4P. But what's the auto settings doing? Is it maintaining highlights in the background? What's the D-Log 2 look like compared to the D-Log? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Now, this is D-Log versus D-Log 2, and you can see I actually exposed for the sky. Now, what I'm doing is boosting the exposure in post, and you can see how much noise is actually in the shadows when you boost that exposure in the Pocket 4 compared to the Pocket 4P. Pocket 4P is so much cleaner, definitely actually usable, whereas the Pocket 4 just isn't really that usable. And also, when it comes to the colors of both of these profiles, obviously they look a little bit different. D-Log does look different to the D-Log 2. And in this scene, it's a controlled environment. They're exposed pretty much the same and they're color graded the same. But you can see the colors are just a little bit different. In my opinion, D-Log 2 probably looks a little bit more true to life when you have a look at my Mustang and definitely the skin tones. But because they are both log files, you can push and pull the colors to however you desire. I have to say, if exposed correctly, both of these cameras look very similar. From a wide view, it is really hard to tell the difference. You just simply have more flexibility with the Pocket 4P with that 20mm lens in terms of the extra dynamic range and the cleaner shadows. If we were to compare both of these side by side, it just seems like this D-Log 2 has more flexibility. The ISO levels are a little bit lower, so it's going to give cleaner shadows. It just seems like a better gamma curve, but the Pocket 4 is absolutely no slouch. It's just the Pocket 4P seems to handle most situations better with this wide lens. But let's have a look at the 60mm lens. And this is the D-Log 2 versus the D-Log, the 20mm versus the 60mm. It's super hard to compare both of the cameras with two different lenses, but this is just both of the lenses in the Pocket 4P. But we'll try our best to try and have a look at the differences between the Pocket 4P and the Pocket 4. Now, there obviously is no accurate way of comparing two different focal lengths. Like, obviously a 60mm focal length is completely different to a 20mm focal length, but for you to get a very similar point of view, obviously you're going to have to push in a little bit tighter with that 20mm focal length. But what you're going to notice with a 20mm focal length, and if you push in tighter, specifically on subjects, is the distortion. It's not going to look great when it comes to perspectives of faces. It will look completely different to a 60mm lens like we see on the Pocket 4P. That obviously is one of the biggest benefits of having a telephoto lens on a small pocketable camera, because you just have a completely different perspective. So you can't really compare the two. That's just a massive win for the Pocket 4P in my opinion, and it definitely makes this a completely different camera when you actually have a dual lens compared to a single lens. But then obviously when you switch over to the 60mm lens on the Pocket 4, this is where you have to go back to DLOG because unfortunately we cannot access DLOG 2 in the telephoto lens. You have to go back to DLOG, which ISO 400 is the minimum, but it's an f1.8 aperture. And also, if you haven't already, definitely check out the Pocket 4P review because I got a ton of footage with that. It's more of a practical review, not really spec heavy like this one, but check that one out as well. I will link that in the description below, but let's get back into comparing both of these cameras. Now, when it comes to the frame rates in both of these cameras, the Pocket 4 has 4K up to 60 frames per second. Same with the Pocket 4P in just your regular mode where you can use DLOG 2 or DLOG, depending on which one you're going to be using. But you have to go into the slow motion mode to access that 240 frames per second in both of these. And yeah, what do they look like side by side? Now looking at the videos side by side with 240 frames per second, these are absolutely not 4K. They're probably 1080. Upscaled and a little bit of digital sharpness. It doesn't look amazing, I have to say. I don't really feel like these are usable in very high professional situations, but there are some situations where, I mean, it kind of can be usable. It really does depend on, I just guess, the lighting, how close you are to the subject, but there's a lot of digital sharpening in both of the footages. Obviously, this is all shot with the 20mm lens and normal picture profile because you can't use log in 240 frames per second. Now, there is one minor caveat with the telephoto lens in the Pocket 4P. You can only do up to 200 frames per second, and obviously that will be DLOG as well. Now, one interesting thing about the 60mm lens at 200 frames per second, it actually looks usable. It looks way better. I'm not sure if that's just because there's a little bit more depth of field, but it looks a little bit cleaner. There's less digital sharpness. In my opinion, it looks usable. You could definitely get away with 200 frames per second with this 60mm lens. Now, you are comparing a smaller lens slash sensor of the DJI Pocket 4P compared to the larger 1-inch sensor of the Pocket 4. So this is very interesting. I actually like the image that comes out of the Pocket 4P in this 60mm lens with 200 frames per second compared to the original Pocket 4 at 200 frames per second with that 20mm lens. Now, when it comes to low light situations, both of these were the newest ones when it came to the Pocket cameras. They both have that fill light, and that is great. I feel like that was one of the biggest reasons why you would go from the Pocket 3 to the Pocket 4 is that fill light, because low light situations and vlogging, absolute game changer. Like that, I'm not using that word lightly. The fill light makes a massive difference to give you some really nice, clean images and definitely usable if you are going to be using this as an A camera. And obviously both of these cameras have that fill light, which is great. All right, so this is the lights on the Pocket 4 and the Pocket 4P and in low light mode. When it comes to low light, these are fantastic, specifically because of these two lights. That's where I said the biggest difference between the Pocket 3 and Pocket 4 was because of this light. If you are in pretty much no light situations, in dark streets where you're walking and talking and vlogging, this is a massive feature. And both of these have this, both of these have low light mode. What do you think of the image that you're seeing out of this? This is complete auto as well. Let the camera do its thing and put the lights on and you're just exposed. It's actually usable footage. Before, without any lights, it's very difficult. You're relying on low light and modes and you're relying on the processor. This just makes it so much easier and far more usable and cleaner. But yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Now, when it comes to the ISO performance, there is a maximum ISO of 12,800 in the Pocket 4, whereas the Pocket 4P does 25,600 for that maximum ISO level. But to access these kind of ISO levels, you do need to be in normal picture profile. With DLOG and DLOG 2, you can't access these kind of ISO levels. The DLOG 2 only caps out at ISO 3200. But in normal mode, the Pocket 4P does outperform the Pocket 4. Now, for the people who aren't actually into color grading, you can actually put it into normal mode and you have inbuilt LUTs. There are a whole bunch of LUTs that you can use and you can dial back the intensity, 70, 50, 30%, whatever you prefer, just to give you a different look. But for the biggest flexibility, I definitely recommend filming in log and learning how to color grade. Now, in terms of internal storage, they both have internal storage, which is a fantastic feature, and I've actually been using the Pocket 4P pretty much without any SD card. Now, the Pocket 4 has 108 gigabytes, whereas the Pocket 4P has 103 gigabytes. I'm not sure why there's a little bit of difference between the two. I guess just maybe extra storage for maybe the processing in the Pocket 4P, because it obviously has dual lenses, but they're very similar anyway. So now both of these also have gesture control as well. So you can start and stop recording, which is a really nice feature, specifically if you are putting these on a table and you want to be able to track yourself, you want to be able to start and stop recording. It's really nice to have, and I know there isn't going to be a lot of people that's going to be using it, but they both have it. So there is one minor feature that I'm not really sure what to think about it, but it's this little guy. It's a little Bluetooth remote that connects directly to the Pocket 4P. You can control it with the joystick. You can hit stop start. You can go through all the settings. It's kind of cool, but I guess at the same time you could use your smartphone and connect it to the Mimo app. You have a larger screen rather than something this tiny. I guess it's just one of the things that, you know, if you don't want to pull out your smartphone, you can utilize this. You know, if you are further away from your camera, you don't have your smartphone on you, I don't know, you can mount this directly onto your arm, as a watch. I don't know. What do you guys think of this? I mean, at least it kind of has this feature to give you an option, but yeah, it's interesting. There is also one massive feature that the Pocket 4P has got that no real other camera has, and that is pretty much just a password lock. This is great. If you actually want to use the camera, you can actually lock it with the password, and you actually have to use the password to unlock it and use it. That is great in terms of theft, and I wish bigger cameras actually had this. Now, obviously, when it comes to optimizing your image quality, you're definitely going to need ND filters. Now, I imagine at the time of this video, when you guys watch this, DJI will have, you know, Pocket 4 filters, but I actually had to use freewheel filters at the time because they essentially had them and they sent them to me, which is fantastic. And pretty much any video recording, I 100% recommend buy ND filters. Now look, in terms of the build design, they're very similar. Like the bodies are pretty much the same size. You can use the Pocket 3 and Pocket 4 accessories on the Pocket 4P. Absolutely everything on this is pretty much the same, and it's just a great thing that you can actually use the cages and, you know, accessories that you've already pre-bought for the Pocket 3 or the Pocket 4 with the Pocket 4P. Now in terms of the battery size, they're rated identical, 1545 milliamp hours, and really depends on how much you're using it, what modes you're actually into, obviously how long these things actually last. Now you can actually buy this external battery as well that you can clip onto the bottom. 100% recommend buying one of those because it does actually top up your pocket camera first, and then once this is fully exhausted, then you actually use the pocket camera's battery. But it's really nice to have this because if this goes flat, then you can throw this in your bag, charge it up, and then still use the battery in your Pocket 4 or Pocket 4P. It's just a really cool accessory to have, specifically if you are, you know, going around town vlogging a whole bunch and taking a ton of footage. It's nice to have that assurance that you're not going to be running out of battery. Now in terms of the weight, they're very similar. The Pocket 4 is about 190 grams, whereas the Pocket 4P is 230 grams. Obviously, that extra weight is literally just the dual cameras. Now before the Pocket 4 arrived, I was kind of thinking, wow, it's a dual camera, it's a little bit bigger. Is it going to be difficult to throw it into my pocket? But it isn't too big of a difference. Like obviously the head is larger because it does have the dual camera. It's got a slightly sort of larger gimbal on it. And especially when it comes to the image quality, it is definitely worth it. So anyway, my friends, I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please give it a thumbs up. Definitely check out the full review of the Pocket 4 or the Pocket 4P, whichever one. Check out the Pocket 3 versus Pocket 4 videos. Yeah, thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. All right, let's get it.